Well, thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you giving me just a few minutes tonight. Whether you're watching this live, and I hope you are, but if for some reason you watch this later, either way, I appreciate you watching, and I want to ask you to watch all the way to the end because there's a few things at the end that we just want everybody to know. And so, with that in mind, and with the landscape as it is in our country and in our nation, in our state, in our city, and in our church, we think it's just the right time for us to have a very candid COVID conversation. And let me just tell you what the number one question I get asked is. In fact, you probably could guess what it is, and here it is. When are we all coming back to the church buildings? I get asked that all the time, and it's a valid question for sure. I loved last week when the White House stepped up and said that all churches, well, let me just say it this way, acknowledged that all churches were actually essential. And he closed the statement by saying America doesn't need less prayer, it needs more prayer. And I just couldn't agree more. You know, the truth is God has been using this online church thing in some really, really great ways. And so we see the future of this thing, and we're really excited about some of those things. And so we are going to continue to stream live into the foreseeable future. And we're really excited about a lot of the possibilities for our church. So when can we just all come back? Let me just tell you, I don't think that that's the right question for us to be asking right now, is when. I think what needs to be on our mind is how, not when. Let's just go ahead and just change the question. The question we need to be asking is, how are we coming back to church buildings? I think we should care more about the how than the when. I mean, how do you treat each other in the middle of this pandemic when there's just so many differing opinions? I mean, how is just more important than when. How is a matter of our character and obedience. How we treat each other, let me tell you, that's what's on God's mind. The when, that's just a matter of opinion and calendar. And so let me show you how we do this. In fact, the Apostle Paul gave us what I want to be kind of our guiding statement as we talk about reopening. I want this to be our guiding statement, what the Apostle Paul told the Roman Christians. Look at what he said. He said, honor one another above yourselves. That should be our guiding principle. That is how we come back together. And I know if you're like me, when you see that, in light of everything that's going on, we say, I don't want to have to think about other people and their opinions right now. I mean, I've got my opinions, I've got my perspectives, I've done my own research, I've listened to the right people, I've formulated my opinion, and you should really think about that because I've got a well-rounded opinion and I'm right. And if you would just pay attention to what I'm trying to tell you or read the same things I'm telling you, you could be right like me. See, that's all the when stuff. If all we can do in coming back is be divided with the when, we might be better off not coming back together at all. See, the goal is not to have someone share your opinion. The goal is to honor each other above ourselves. You know, when you follow Jesus, it shapes how you treat other people. When you follow Jesus, it shapes how you handle differences of opinion. When you follow Jesus, it should be shaping what you put on social media. It shapes how we go through the stages of coming back together. And look, we all have opinions about this. But we're not on our own team. We're on Jesus' team. We actually wear his jersey and we represent him. So we must, as his followers, represent him well. And as a church and as individual followers of Jesus, we need to navigate this return representing Jesus really well. So let's talk about the how of coming back and how the how actually works. Because eventually we're all going to get back on this road And we're all going to be moving towards being back all together. And as we do, what's going to happen is we're going to come up against some traffic lights. That's what happens when we drive. And I know you know this, but just for the sake of our conversation tonight, help me out with this. On a traffic light, we know there's a green light, and on that green light, we know what that means. It means go, right? The green light means go. And just humor me just a little bit here, right? The yellow light, what does that mean, right? It means caution, right? For some of you, you're going, no, it means go faster. I've thought that before too. And then, the red light, help me out, what is it? It's stop. And as we go down this road of regathering, we're going to come to some traffic signals. And we're just going to come up again. And here's the thing. We need some common rules and we need some common language. We're going to encounter some of this, and we need the language that goes along with it. Without common rules and without common language, we would have accidents and we would stop up roads. We need some common language around how we do this. Isn't it true that people have different opinions than others when it comes to driving? And you know what we do? We shame people for how they drive. I've seen multiple times on social media posts a picture of a truck or a car, and it's like the license plates and everything, and then a lot of curse words describing what this idiot did to that person who took the picture of them and posted it on social media. Are you like me? Sometimes do you talk to people when you're driving? It's like, okay, come on. If you have no place to go, should you even be on the road? Get moving, right? Or you're driving down the road and somebody just blows by you and you're like, where's a cop when you need one? Why are you in the fast lane? If you're not going to go fast, move, scoot over. We're going to come back from COVID, and how we drive through this COVID season is going to matter. And so what I want to do is I want to give you 3 things to give us some common language and to help us as we navigate this road together. And so I want to give you these 3 things. And the first one is this. There are 3 different groups. There are 3 different groups in the way that we view how we are returning to church buildings. In fact, we did a little test group, a survey, and we found, get this, we have all 3 groups in our church. We have the red light group, we have the yellow light group, and we have the green light group. Some of you are red, and you've got good reason to be. In fact, let me give you a real life example from our survey. Here's what someone said. We have kids with medical needs, which puts them at high risk of fatality. It's likely that schools being reopened will coincide with our decision to return, but it's too soon to tell. These guys are red. Now, I understand that. Here's another one. Someone said, I miss everybody so much, but I'm not ready to make any decisions. People are dying alone. The risk is not worth it. For now, we'll stay home. These are people in our church, and their light's red. But equally, there are people in our church whose light is green. In fact, here was one of the responses from our survey. It said, we don't shut down every time there's a virus. We don't stay off the road because you could die in a car wreck. We don't shut down every year as 56,000 people die from the flu. I'm ready now. They're green. Another one said, we should have never closed. This is an irrational fear of an imaginary enemy. They're green. Another person said, we are past doing what needed to be done. Now we're just being foolish. The cure was worse than the threat. Open up. And both groups exist in our church. See, COVID opinions are so polar opposite that it causes division. In fact, I want you to see what the Apostle Paul told the people in the Ephesian church. Take a look at what he said in Ephesians 4:3. He said, make every effort to keep, look at this word right here, to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bonds of peace. Make every effort to keep the unity. Rock Point, I want you to listen closely. The evil one never wastes a crisis. He is going to do everything possible to try to destroy everything God has been wanting to build during this COVID season. We can't even all come back together because we can't unify because we have different color lights. And so what do? We end up shaming each other. Well, you aren't in my light group. But then there are people in our church, and their light is yellow. In fact, here's a couple from our survey. One said, I'm 63 and I suffer from asthma. I'm in a high-risk group, so I'm just being cautious. Yellow. Here's another one. I'm very cautious of the older community, and when I go out, I wear a mask. If I came to church, I'd want to distance and wear my mask. I'm proceeding forward, but with caution. See, we have three very different groups in our church. You know what this is like? This is like playing that old kids game, red light, green light. Remember that? Where you would turn around and everybody would try to move towards you, and then someone would spin around and they would try to catch someone making the wrong move. Often just calling someone out and calling them out of the game because we thought they made the wrong move. That's a lot what this is like. And so let me just ask you, where are you? Where are you in this COVID-19 game of red light, green light? You know, as we open at a limited capacity this weekend, there will always be people who have a green light. I mean, they're kind of the front runners. They don't mind taking a risk, and they're thinking, we got to get this over and done with. And then there's always going to be people who are yellow light, and they aren't out front, but they're also not the last. They're just moving slowly but cautiously. And then there's always going to be people in the red light group. And they're very cautious about this thing, and they think we need to be more careful than we're being, and they don't want to take any risk. Well, where are you? And wherever you are in the red or yellow or green group, no matter where you are as a Jesus follower, you have been given marching orders to honor others above yourself. Look, we've got to change the conversation. It's not, I'm this color and you should be too. No, the conversation should be, I need to get out of my shoes and into your shoes for a little bit. There's three different groups and opinions right here in our church. But here's what we need to know, and it's the second thing I want you to know, is you may not like this, but there is no right or wrong. There is no better or best. There is no color that's better than the other. In fact, here's what I want you to know. That Rock Point is not a green light church. We're not saying we're throwing on the green light and here we go and this is who we are now. We're just going. We're not a green light church. I also want you to know that we are not just a yellow light church. We're not just flashing yellow and saying, you got to be yellow, you got to do it like us in order to be a part of this. That's not who we are. And then we're not a red light church. We're not this red light group just saying, look, if you want to be a part of our family, you got to do this, and here's what you got to do. We're not saying that. Listen closely. Listen, Rock Point. Do you know what we are? We're not a green or a yellow or a red light church. You know what we are? We are a traffic signal church. We are the traffic signal. We're all of these things. This is our church. We are the church with three different opinions. Look, if you have to have the whole church be your light color, you're going to be in trouble. In fact, not just in church, that's going to be true for you everywhere. Most of your opinions and my opinions on COVID are not biblical, they're not moral, and they're not a doctrinal issue. But how we treat other people in other groups is. So look, we have to be ready to do this God's way. And what is God's way? Well, let's go back to Ephesians where Paul tells us. Ephesians 4:2. He said, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. You know, being humble just means I'm admitting I don't know it all. Like, wait a minute. There is a right in this. Well, wait, time out. We have medical professionals whose light is red. We have medical professionals who are in the yellow group. There are medical professionals who are in the green group. And look, there are facts and statistics backing up every single light color. There is just too much that we don't know. There is a justification for every opinion. So you have to be humble because we don't really know. There's a lot out there. And then it says you need to be gentle. Like treat each other with the same respect that you want to be treated with. And then be patient. Be patient like God is patient with you. And then it says bearing with one another in love. Now, why did he say that? Because sometimes people are unbearable. That's why he said it. You ever notice that? Like you're wearing a mask and they aren't, and you're thinking, what is wrong with you? Where is your mask? Or you're not wearing a mask and you're thinking, good grief, are you still wearing that old thing? We've got to stop the shaming. Whatever the rest of the world does, we can't do anything about that. But as Jesus followers in this church, we can't have that shaming. Everyone is not going to join your color of light. Here's the final thing that I want you to know, and that is, I need to know your light more than you need to know mine. Here's what I mean by that. We have got to stop well, you just need to know where I stand on this. And we need to start with, hey, what's your color? So that we can engage with appropriate honor and respect of each other's opinions. If I'm a red and you're a green, look, I'm not going to cross my red lines, but I'm going to respect. Okay, all right, be green. If I'm green and you're red, mask, gloves, okay. I'll respect that. As a church, we can't be shaming. God calls us as his followers to honor differing opinions. And remember, your opinions are going to change over time. What's important is that we have differing opinions without being divided. It's not when, it's the how that's important. And how we come together is what matters most. And so, where are you? Well, we'd like to know. If you hadn't taken our survey, we'd like for you to take that survey. It's been sent to you in an email, in one of the daily emails. Dig back and find that. We'd love to hear from you and hear how you feel. Where are you in this? So this weekend, we will gather back into our church buildings with less than a 20% capacity. And we are asking those of you who decide that you want to come to RSVP, and as a common courtesy, we're asking you while you're here to distance. And we're not talking about socially distancing anymore because we'll be together. We're talking about physical distancing. In fact, maybe that's just the better word around our church from here on out when we're gathered together. We're going to roll along through June, and we'll watch for a few weeks. And if all is still moving and in a good direction, then we'll raise that percentage. If we need to keep going at that level, we'll stay going at that level. And all that comes together as the when. But what's most important is the how. So a little bit ago, we sent you all an email. In fact, if you hadn't gotten it, hang on, it's on its way. And within the next 20 to 30 minutes, you should be receiving that email. In fact, right now, we're going to post on social media a link where you can RSVP to a particular service or a particular campus if you would like to attend. And again, less than 20%. And when those things are full, they'll be full. We won't go over that this weekend. And then I want you to know that the RSVP, the people coming back, is for 6th grade through adult. And I want to tell you why. The reason why we are not opening up children's ministry is because our facilities will not allow us to distance kids safely. And so we'll continue our kids ministry online. In fact, we're working on some ways now that hopefully even next week we'll begin to change for that for you. We want to ramp those up for your kids this summer. We're going to be offering some opportunities for you to pop out and maybe engage with some other people out in the open and be around, because we want to engage with your family over the summer. And of course, we'll keep the weekend services streaming live as well going forward. Rock Point, I want you to know that we are trying to step forward responsibly and reasonably, while also trying to honor each group. And I believe that this is God's way for us to make every effort to keep unity in the church and to honor others above ourselves. So if you'd like to join us this weekend and you feel comfortable doing that, we would welcome you up to that capacity, and you can just RSVP at that link. If you decide that for you it's hang back for a few weeks, that's okay. We'll still continue reaching out to you. You're still our church family. One group here is not more than important than another group out there. We're one family, worshiping in different locations. We've been doing that for several years now. We just have a lot of locations now. So we want you to know that our heart is the entire traffic signal, not one particular color group. So Rock Point, we want you to know that we love you, and we are trying to do this responsibly and sensibly. And we appreciate your patience. We appreciate you helping us keep unity. And as we begin these steps forward, we're asking for your prayers and for your patience and for your help in honoring other opinions as we go through this. Rock Point, I love you, and I'm so, so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful that you would spend a few minutes tonight listening, or if you listen later or watch this later, then I appreciate you sticking in and taking the time to learn as a Jesus follower how we come back. Let me pray for our church. Father, thank you that you've put us in this church together. And God, I'm just so grateful for these wonderful people. And God, we don't understand why or how this has all come about, but God, we know that we are in this thing. And as we try to take steps forward to regather at some level, God, would you just give us wisdom to know the right thing to do? And so God, you've heard me multiple times in private, and I'll just say it in public tonight. I don't know how to do this. I've never had to do this before. And God, it's unfortunate for me because I don't even know anybody who's ever done this before. And as a church, we just don't. And so God, what we're asking is that you would help us to love each other as we go through this. And that you would help us to respect and keep unity within our church as we take steps forward. And God, would you help us to honor each person, no matter what color group they find themselves in. And would you protect our church from the evil one who would love to destroy the unity and the mission that you've given us. Father, would you be with us and give us wisdom as we go forward? And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I look forward to seeing some of you at our campus here in Leander, and for others at the campus in Liberty Hill, and look forward to being with you online as well this weekend. Thanks so much for joining me tonight.